Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to look on the NinjaTrader add-ons, the MTP RT add-ons for NinjaTrader. I would like to look at what we call our Holy Grail trade setup. And there was a very good example of this yesterday on a 3-minute chart of the Russell Index. For those of you new to this, you'll notice that the Holy Grail trade setup will always be against the STF colour. So standard traders would not be considering this. However, it's a great trade setup to move on to as you become more experienced with MTPredictor. So I want to go through and have a look at this in today's video. The STF, like any standard technical analysis indicator, will be lagging. In other words, it's behind the market as it makes new turns. That's why we have our DPs, which are leading indicators. So for this, we go to the higher time frame. So in this example, that means going from the 3-minute chart up to the 15-minute chart. Now the DPs are great because these can be placed on the chart in advance. If I put a bit of white space here on the right hand side. So what happens is before the market even opened, you can right mouse click over a prior pivot, decision point, and therefore that decision point is on the chart as support before the market even got there. And as we can see, if I just extend that out by doing a box, a rectangle, like that, you can see that this actually caught the very low of the day on the Russell Index as well. If we look at some of the other markets on the ES, if I look at the ES, and exactly the same idea, before the market opened we had our decision point from this pivot, and as you can see this caught the very low of the day on the ES as well. Remember, this was on the chart before the market even got down there. In fact, we were talking about this in our training webinar yesterday, just as the market was getting there. If we now look at the NQ, while that data loads just for a second, if we look at the NQ, exactly the same. Before the market even opened, right mouse click on the prior pivot, really easy to do, decision point, there it is on the chart for you in advance. Market comes down to the level, finds support, rallies for the next of the day. The YM wasn't at support, but the point being is that 3 out of the 4 of the USE minis yesterday came right down into their 15-minute DP support, which then held and the market rallied off those lows beautifully. So the first thing is nice to have a tool that you can put on the chart in advance to project areas in advance of support and resistance before the market even gets there. And you can see here we nailed the low beautifully. But let's go back to the Russell Index. Let's bring this back down and onto a 3-minute chart. And if I just take that one off because I want to just zoom in a bit or zoom out a bit and go back to the prior pivot here just to put this on this 3-minute chart. If I do decision point, I'll now do exactly the same as before. I'll do a rectangle just to extend this out a little bit, just so you get the price levels, so you can see it extends it out. And if we zoom in again, you can see how this caught the very low of the day. Remember, this was on your chart before the market even got there. So as the Russell Index was declining down, this level was there, ready for it. In other words, it was there in advance. So as you can see, it came down, tagged that low absolutely beautifully. But what I want to look at is what does that mean for us on a Holy Grail trade setup. Actually, before I do that, I'll just go back to the ES on a 3-minute chart. We'll just see if there's any setups on the NQ first. Yes, there were. There was a setup here if I put the analysis on. Now what that means is because we were coming off 15-minute support, the first thing that this allows the advanced traders using MTPredictor to do is to avoid losing trades. So because the large degree trend was up, you would not be taking sell setups because this would be against the large degree trend. Therefore this would help you lose what was an otherwise losing trade here. So that's the first thing about using the large degree trend, is it allows you to filter your 3 and 5-minute trades to be in the direction of that trend. The other thing that it does is on trade setups like this, we actually look for a larger target. If I put the analysis on this first bar, The reason we have two setups here is because it was a double bottom. So in reality you were in long from this first trade setup, and not stopped out for this second one. So there's only one trade here. Now this is it shows you this example really well, is that because we have larger degree support here, this is the initial rally off the low, this is the initial correction off the low, and in Elliott wave terms, if I just clear this off, right mouse click, do Elliott wave major, in Elliott wave terms this is actually a wave 1, and then we're down into a wave B, sorry, a wave 2. Now what that means is after a wave 2 we're then anticipating a strong wave 3 type of rally. So if I put the analysis on here, what it means is we're then not looking for our first target, which is our minimum wave C, we're actually looking for our third target, which is our typical wave 3. So it's this one up here, you can see it's got the name in it. If I now put the risk reward on at that level there, you can see you're actually aiming for a trade of approximately 10.5 R. So can you see it's instantly a great trade because the profit is potentially much larger than the initial risk. If I scroll forward, you can see actually the end of the day was here. So in reality the trade would have just been closed at the end of the day, and the profit would have been just want to check that's right. Do the risk reward, sorry, just do the risk reward again off that bar as of the close. Yes, about 8.8 or 8.9 R. So what that means is the profit at just over $3,000 would have been 8.8, or nearly 9 times greater than the initial risk of about $350. Remember, we use correct position sizing to make sure we vary the lots, contracts or shares to keep our initial risk small and under control, in this case less than 2% of a $20,000 account. So that's where position sizing comes in. But the point being is that the Holy Grail trade setup, because we're looking off a major low, that's the first and foremost. Remember, we had that on our 15-minute charts in advance. We then look for the initial rally, which we consider a wave 1. We then look for the initial correction, which is what we had here into this setup, which was an ABC. We then don't look to come out at our first target, we look to go to our typical wave 3 target because we're anticipating that we're in a wave 3 type of swing. And as you can see, the results of these are spectacular because wave 3 is the strongest and longest Elliott wave there is in a completed 5-wave sequence. The profits are much larger than the initial risks, and that's why I wanted to go through this in today's video, because it shows you a great example of not only how we had our 15-minute DPs on our charts in advance, which actually nailed, as you can see here, nailed the very low of the day beautifully for you, but also gave you the opportunity to set up our Holy Grail trade setup, which was here, which as you can see had a very high profitable trade, and as such a very good result. And all these tools are in the MTPredictor RT add-ons for NinjaTrader 7.